Hello and welcome to my March-ish vlog, I guess. It's not really just March, it's more gonna be, a few weeks of March, but we have two very important and exciting goals for the month. Well, one is more exciting than the other, but if you're aware of what my monthly-ish kind of goal chunks have been, this month is working on structure and starting my read through, which is very exciting. I haven't touched my Magic Forged project since the end of November, I think, which is kind of crazy. It's definitely a pretty long break. I normally don't take this long of breaks, especially not with first drafts, but I think it's gonna be good and I'm very excited about it. It's just gonna be really good. And I have a few goals. I have a list of things that I already kind of were aware were problems when I was kind of finishing up drafting, and those are kind of your usual things you would expect with the first draft. A lot of the side plots weren't as well defined as I'd like them to be. Some of the side character arcs weren't as defined as I'd like them to be. A lot of the stuff that wasn't happening in the main plot was kind of vague. There's stuff that's going on with the enemy type faction and with the main love interests, what they're trying to do. All of that was really vague and not fleshed out. And so I know that I need to go back and do that. I know I need to add in more of the vibes of the story, because I know I had them in a few places, but I want it to be a very not textured feeling, but I want it to be very immersive with the feeling of the wilderness and the outside and the world building, that side of it. I want it to feel like you're there. That's something that's really important, I think, for this story. So I already know that I need to do that general stuff, but I want to do a read through. I want to get an idea of what needs to change, see if I can find any major plot holes, see if there's any scenes or chapters where I'm this does not work, or this character doesn't work, or just kind of do that read through, point out any of the stuff that kind of comes to mind, etc., and make myself a plan for going forward, right? I want to make more than just a general revision guide like I did last time around. And if I remember, and if I don't, poke me, but I did a whole video series last time when I created my revision guide, and I had a whole process for it, and I can link that below if you want to see what I did last time. But this time I want to spend more time planning before I actually dive into it, right? I've just done a ton of work on, researching character and figuring out how I want to build character. I made all those cheat sheets and figured out how building all that makes sense to me, and the arcs and the relationships. And right now, this month, I'm also diving into structure and outlines and how I want to do that and how I want to weave things in moving forward. And so I can apply all that stuff I've learned to this book that's just a first draft right now, right? And so I want to be really intentional about that, and anything where I know I need to add a plot line, I don't want to be oh yeah, talk about this more. I want to actually figure out what that is and flesh it out before I get started. I think that will save me a lot of time, and I've kind of ran into that struggle when doing revisions before, where I'm I know I want to add this, but I don't really know what I want to add, and I'm just sitting here staring at the page I don't know what I'm and then I just do something to kind of check it off, but I don't do it right, So I'm going to try to do that more this time, try and really get that figured out, and the goal for the month is I want to be done the read through by the end of the month. Ideally, I want to start working on organizing the notes and the plans to fix. We'll see how far I get, but I'm going to do something different this time. In the past, I've printed out my first drafts and left physical notes or notes in a note app on my phone, or I think once I just read it on my phone and then kept notes in a note app, but that was a later draft, I think. So for this time, what I've done is I sent it to my Kindle. I've already done that. I did the whole email it to yourself, export it from Scrivener thing. Which is easier now that they're just EPUB books and you can just directly send them. You don't have to do any weird conversion stuff, which took me a while to figure out. There wasn't as helpful of guides on that anymore because it's not that fancy Kindle Mobi format that's required anymore. But I put it in my phone and it's there, and I'm gonna try adding notes. You can highlight something and add notes in Kindle. I don't know if you can really export that in a useful way, but I don't know, that's just what I'm going to do this time because it'll be easier for me to have it in one place. And if I have to just sit here and flick through all the notes as I put it into Scrivener, I'll do that. It's fine. But if that doesn't work out well for me, I've seen there are a decent number of e-reader apps that are better at taking notes and then exporting them. So in the future, I might do that for my critiques of my own books because, like, I can't do it in Google Drive. I can't. It's just so slow, and editing it on your phone, it doesn't take you back where you were before, so it's, like, impossible to find where you were. Like, I hate it. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm never critiquing anything in Google Drive ever again. Ever. It's not happening. But yes, I'm working on that. I'm going to get that figured out. And I'm excited. I don't think I have any other special notes for that, but I'm very curious to see how this goes because this is my first time reading a first draft that wasn't the very first draft I ever wrote. Well, not that it was the first draft I ever wrote, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the first book I've written after, like, my first time fully finishing and completing a project, like, through the revision phases, right? So, like, I'm curious to know what quality this first draft is, because you would hope every time you write a first draft, it's going to be better and better and better and better, to the point where, like, you don't have to do as many revision passes. You kind of have thought things through more at the beginning. Like, that's what I'm expecting, so I'm curious to see what state it's in. I have no idea what to expect. I'm very nervous about it. I'm sort of, like, half expecting it to be complete and utter trash and just being like, oh, what have I done? Like, this is awful. I need to, like, start over and do a full rewrite. Like, I don't know. We'll see. I'm a little nervous. I'm excited, but nervous, but excited. So yes, there's that goal. And then I need to work on structure. And I'm going to do something similar with character. I'm going to read back through my notes. I got a couple of new craft books I want to read through for structure. And then I want to just make myself some cheat sheets. I want to go through, like, story acts and sequences. I have a video where I went through a structure deep dive, and I'm going to be building off of that for this. But I want to just, like, make some more intentional, like, plans for myself so that when I plot in the future, I can go back and reference this and, like, pull all my notes together so that I can easily find them and rehash them when I need to do structure, plotting type stuff. And then also just, like, figure out some of that kind of stuff. You know, figure out what kind of plot structure I want to have for this new craft potion project and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm going to be working on this month. And I made myself a little plan, which if this ends up looking bad, I'll include, like, just, like, a screenshot of it, if you can see that. But I created a calendar, which has, you know, my month in it that's remaining. I have 3 weeks. I broke, you know, all of the tasks that I need to do down on this side. And then I broke each week into what I need to accomplish each week to kind of get everything done in an even sort of fashion, if you can see this, if that makes sense. And so I'm excited about it. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I will kind of keep it and give you updates as I go. I considered breaking this into 2 vlogs, but, like, it's going to be 1. So, yes, I will check in as I go. Okay, so I wanted to give a quick read-through update. I am through 10 chapters now out of 48, I think. So I'm almost a quarter of the way through. And good things, bad things. The bad thing is my first chapter, or first scene, first, like, maybe 2 scenes, rough. It is not the right opening. It is far too, like, clearly set up. There's too much exposition. Things feel fake and forced and, like, I still think it's maybe on the right path of, like, the right, like, it's definitely the right starting point in terms of the story, but I don't know if the scene is exactly what it needs to be, so I'm gonna have to do some thinking on that. But so far, the rest of it has been surprisingly good. Like, I am sure I did not keep this up, right? Because, like, when you first start, everything's fresh in your mind, you're excited, you're like, I don't know, I feel like there's that level of that, and then that starts to, like, as you're like, I just need to get through this scene, I need to get through this scene, let's keep going, let's get it done. Like, I feel like that energy peters down a little bit, but it's actually good for a first draft. Like, the character conversations are interesting. It makes sense. There's already things that are really, like, interwoven. Like, it's actually, like, it's way better than I thought it was going to be so far, right? And I am at the inciting incident. Well, like, I've come to hate the term inciting incident, but I'm coming to the, like, acceptance of the adventure, essentially, beat, right? And then the, like, journey to Act 2 or the break into 2, right? So I finished reading Act 1. And in terms of a setup, I think it's good. It's perhaps a bit on the nose at times, right? Because, like, I feel like first drafts are always like that, you know, you need to kind of make things more discreet as you go instead of being so on the nose, but the character setup is definitely there, the motivation is really strong, the conflict is really strong. There's, like, a few bits and pieces that are a little bit, like, definitely need to be fleshed out more, for sure, but, like, it's kind of good. I was so surprised. Like, after I got through the first, like, maybe 3 chapters, or 3 scenes, I was like, this is, like, actually, like, making sense. The characterizations are good, the interactions, like, and I think a lot of that is just I really understand scenes so much better now. Like, when I started writing that, I actually understood what a scene was. And I actually, like, you know, outlined them better than, you know, I have ever done in the past. So, like, the fact that I did that and the, like, it's just, I can see how much I've grown in terms of, like, structure and characterization and just all of that, like, beats and movement and momentum and all of that, you know, like, I'm growing so much and it's just really nice to see. And I know I have so much more to learn, but, like, it's satisfying. It's very satisfying. But I need to go back to working on cheat sheets. I've started working on cheat sheets. I'm hoping to get through some more plot ones. Actually, let me move this over here so I can get this turned on. But, sorry, the lighting is so much worse now. But I'm making progress. I think that when it comes to, like, the scenes and the sequences and the acts and all that, like, detailing, I think I'm gonna need to reiterate it a few times because these are definitely where I need to figure out what's going to be most helpful for me going forward. You know what I mean? Like, I need the high level stuff, but then I also need, like, how I want to use it. Like, I don't care, oh, there's, like, this many ways to do this. Like, I want to write what I'm going to be doing, what I care about, what makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, I am not making these for people. I'm making them for me. And I just need to keep reminding myself of that. Because, like, when I make official things like this and I know I'm going to share it, I keep thinking, like, oh, I should make it ideal for other people and, like, include all the stuff other people might want to know. And, like, it's not that I don't want to do that, but it's, like, high-level organization. I need to focus on me and what makes sense to me and what I want and need, because at the core, these are for me, and I don't even know if any of you care at all, right? Like, I don't know. I'll share them just because I have them and I can, but, like, that's not the point. So that's what I'm working on. But yeah, I'm going to dive back into it for now. Hello. So, guess what I just got in the mail? A sword. I am very excited. It's a side sword, so it's not ridiculously long or huge like a longsword is. Like, a longsword would be like up to here, maybe. But, side sword. I've ordered 2, but I only got 1 so far. And, they're surprisingly chunky, right? Like, they're not like a rapier, right? Which is pretty thin. They're just, like, chunky boys, you know? Like, a sword. Obviously, you don't hold it with 2 hands. That would be dumb. But it's a single-handed sword. But, oh, try not to stab anything in my room. But isn't it cool? It's so shiny. Look at it. Look how shiny it is. It's very cool. Okay, I need to get back to, I've been making cheat sheets. Oh, that thing's heavy. And I've been going through, and I actually snuck ahead a little bit, and I've been doing some of the plot architectures. And I actually ran across something called Kisho Tenketsu. I think it's probably not how you pronounce it, but close-ish maybe. And it's like a Japanese / like Asian storytelling structure that's very non-Western, and it's basically where the plot isn't propelled by conflict. And I've been researching that, and it's very interesting. Like, it's very interesting. It covers a lot of like Miyazaki movies and stuff like that, Ghibli films, where it doesn't quite fit into the normal structure we're aware of, but like it's still really good and compelling. So I've been researching that just to kind of get an idea of like something that doesn't fit at all into anything else I've looked at, any other structures I've looked at. So I need to draw a little diagram for that, but yeah, I've been chugging along. I've been definitely going a little bit like, not like ahead, but I've been going a little bit faster than I expected. I feel like my hair is everywhere. But, you know, we're making good progress, so I'm gonna keep working on that. Just wanted to show you my sword. So we are making progress on the cheat sheets. Why are you? No, I do not want to use. How do I make this go away? I don't want to use. Oh, I hate Microsoft Edge. Okay, sorry. It's just getting very aggravating, whatever. It just keeps popping up and forcing me to use it every time my computer starts on, like, hey, check out us. And I'm like, no, I use Chrome. But anyway, I'm making progress with the structure stuff. I did all my like high level structure kind of groundwork stuff, my pacing stuff, some side plot stuff, things that go into like acts and sequences, which is fine. That's all like theory stuff. But then I've been diving into different types of, what are they called? Like structures or, you know, that sort of thing. And I've there's been two types of things I'm looking at. The first is plot structures or like structure format type things. So I have like Save the Cat, Anatomy of Story, Romance the Beat, there's an 8 Crafts plot beats, that sort of a thing, a Kisho Tensu plot. And then I'm also pulling in a bunch of plot archetypes, right? Which is where you go from structure into genre, right? Because different genres, there's different conventions. But the thing is with fantasy, and this is one of my favorite things about fantasy, fantasy is like all the genres, but in a fantasy world. Like you can have fantasy mystery, fantasy romance, fantasy horror, fantasy suspense, fantasy adventure. Like you can have cozy fantasy that's just like a contemporary novel, but like in a fantasy world. Like you can do literally everything. So I don't love looking at, I don't know, stuff too much from that perspective, right? Because you have to think about, you have overall structure, and then you have a lot of different plot archetypes depending on what you're doing at that moment, right? Like, we're not always writing mysteries, we're not always writing this, we're not always writing that, right? Because in fantasy, we can do a little bit of everything. And I normally do have a little bit of a lot of things in each book I plot. There's normally some sort of mystery or information plot. There's always some form of romance, whether or not it's like the B plot or a more minor plot. And then like sometimes there's like a quest or an adventure or a war or a heist or something like that. And so I've been going through and writing down different types of like plot archetypes, really inspired from the video by Brandon Sanderson where he talks about this, mainly going through heist plots. And so I have documented those also because, you know, I'm writing a heist. And I find that most of these, the way they work is they'll give you like a few important scenes, maybe a few important turning points, maybe a few like sequences type things, right? So like in his heist one, he talks about like, okay, you have the assembly, like you assemble the team to do the heist. You're always going to have that, right? And then you're going to have the either gather the pieces, gathering the solutions for the problems, right? Like working towards what you're going to need to complete the heist. There's always some sort of like twist of some form, you know, like where that heist big day is probably going to be like your climax, unless it's a smaller subplot, and then it will be the climax of whatever like that arc or, you know, subplot line is, whatever, right? So you have that. And I've also been taking notes because I renewed my Plotter subscription because I'm going to try Plotter for plotting this book. It's going to happen. But I started going through a bunch of the plot lines in there and documenting them, and a lot of them are on the YouTube channel where they talk about them at least at a high level. So I have like, there's a Story Engines blueprint, which is really like a high level plot structure. But then there's one that's, one that's a mystery subplot, one that's an action adventure plot. There's a 7 romantic comedy beats, cozy mystery, Sleuth's Journey, like just a lot of stuff like that that is more archetypal, right? So I want to kind of go through these that I have here. Oh, and I also found one by Abby Emmons on Enemies to Lovers, which I was like, okay. But I kind of want to make a bunch of like high level just diagrams of what those plots kind of look like, you know, like for the different types of subplots in a story. So whatever one your main plot is, like it would follow that rough archetypal structure. And then your subplots, you would have those little beats or sections in it too, and they would overlap, right? So my main book right now, the main plot is essentially a heist. It's not actually a heist where they're stealing something, but it's the same sort of vibe, the same structure. So where's my heist one? Yeah, there we go. So like that's going to be my high level like plot structure in terms of the main plot, those major turns in it. But then also I'm going to have the characters, like their relationship, that found family subplot is also going to be in there. And like a lot of these pieces might line up where the turns are, right? Because they're working together to accomplish the heist. And the heist is going to be based on and require them to be able to work together, right? So like they will turn together. They will move each other forward. So they will all be together, but it's like I'll have like, okay, we're in the assembly phase and the like introduction to each other phase. And then we're in the first gathering pieces stage, but they're still hostile. And then as they go into fragile is where they're still in the gathering pieces phase, right? But it's like the second part of it, right? There's going to be that turn in the middle of making progress on it, right? Before the big heist moment. So like it's a way to subdivide it almost and get a very clear idea of where your sequences are going to be and where those big moments are, so that you don't get, you know, the saggy middle or whatever, right? Because you'll have these moments that need to happen. And then I also have like an information plot that's going to tie into the heist, but I think I need to track it separately. I want to track the romance separately, even though it's going to follow very closely to that, like the found family plot line, mostly just because like it's also part of that plot, but it's just like a smaller, like more intense relationship in there. But there might be a few more beats in that, right? Because it's going to be a little bit more prevalent than each individual relationship in the found family. Like the found family will probably be most prevalent, and then the romance, but the plot's points with just that character will be a little bit more prevalent than with each of the individual other characters, if that makes sense. Like group that individual other individuals, sort of. So I need to work that in, and I want to just like spend this time thinking about it, not because I need all of these different types of archetypes right now, but if I have them easily available, it will help me think about ways they're different so that I can really understand what it is that I'm trying to do here. And then it's something that I can easily reference later. And I'm not going to share with you the ones that are like, you need a subscription to view, right? Just like I don't share a lot of this stuff in as much detail as, like they're really notes, and if you really want to fully understand it, you need to go and read the book, right? It's going to be the same thing with this sort of thing. If I'm copying exactly a plot archetype and a plot structure from like Plotter, I'm not going to show that to you. I'll tell you which ones I'm looking at, but I'm not going to show that to you directly. If I end up doing something where I take one and then extrapolate it a lot or combine that with other stuff and like create something new, then I'll show it, but you know what I mean? But anyway, so I'm making progress with that, and I'm really getting an idea of the difference between plot structure and then those plot archetypes, right? Because I think that at a structure level, right, you have the story, you have the acts, you have the sequences, the scenes. You know, between each of those acts, you have a major act turn. Between each of the sequences, you have a major sequence turn. All of these will start with goals at the beginning, right? And they build up and support the higher level version, right? And that's the structure, really, right? Like, that is structure. But a lot of books kind of fit into this middle phase, like, I would say less so Story Genius, but like Save the Cat is one, Anatomy of Story is another, where they include other things, right? Things about world, about character, that sort of stuff. And it's very like light, right? It's not getting into like the specifics of the exact plot you're trying to tell, right? It's more like, okay, well at this point, like, you really need to explain the character's, like, inciting incident, and like, like they'll have a lot of beats in there that make sense for character and story, and I guess this is where it goes into them having genre specifics, which maybe I need to go back and look at. I have Anatomy of Genre somewhere. Maybe I need to look back through that again, and it'll make sense to me now more that I'm thinking about it like this. Sorry if I'm rambling, but like, this is making sense to me. So I'm just trying to distinguish it, get all the top plot lines, break them down into their upper pieces, break out the like more detailed pieces, like those archetype pieces, and then create myself just like little recipes, right? Like little recipe cards and a little like recipe, like I have one of those little wooden flip top things with all your little recipe cards that are little dividers based off the type. And then you can be like, oh yes, well I want to make a pie, so let me pull out my, let's make a graham cracker crust, and here's this filling, and this is what I need for the topper, and let's, so that sort of a thing. Like start building that little recipe book of plot archetypes and stuff, which I think would be really fun. So I'm going to work on that some more, and yeah. Alright, so it is now April 1st. No jokes here, sorry, I don't know, don't do that, but I just got back from my Easter weekend at the mountains, which was wonderful. We got to do an extra long weekend because the kids had off on like Friday and Monday, so it was just really nice. We spent some good time down there. I didn't really get any time to do anything. It was pretty busy, but I did a little bit more reading in my draft, and at this point I am on chapter, let's see if I can look at this real quick. I am on scene 33 out of 48. So I'm a good bit of the way through. I'm not quite 3/4 through, but I am past the midpoint, and I think my feelings have kind of mostly remained the same. I think there's some good moments. I think the high level structure of it is good. I think there's still some issues with like needing to pull some of the other characters' thread lines through better and give them more evolved plot lines. And just that sort of a thing where I need to flesh things out, make things a little bit more consistent and connected. And then there's like a few scenes where I'm like, the scene level just needs to be redone a bit, to make it a little bit more interesting, and make some of the decision making make a little bit more sense. But yeah, I have finished, I believe, all of the plot related stuff I wanted to do, all the structure stuff. So that part of my monthly goal. Who's at the front door? Alright. But anyway, yes. So I got this for Easter for my mom, which is like this little like book, which has like just, it's very, it kind of feels kind of homemade, which honestly it probably is. And then a couple of little like journals while we were at little, I don't know, independent stores kind of thing. But this is like a little dot grid thing, which would be good for sketching. This is a good little notebook. I'm kind of looking at one of these for the purpose of making magic related stuff. I'm not sure yet. I need to spend some time thinking about it, how exactly I want to document my magic system. Because like part of me loves the idea of having a physical like grimoire magic book, like I think that would be really quite cool. But maybe I'll also just like make it online and export it as a PDF, and I could like print it at some point and like, it could be like that, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what format I want to do for that. So I'm still thinking, but I do have another 15 more scenes I need to read, which if I actually had the time to really focus and sit down and do it all, I could do it pretty fast, I think. I'm still gonna try and get that done this week, I think is my new goal, since I didn't get it done this weekend. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. That's all been going well, and yeah, I need to pivot again, right? Because each month I get to work on a different thing. I get to start laying it out, and I started looking at it a little bit this weekend for next month for my like April task for my new writing project, which, where did it go? Yeah, my magic system. And I have a lot of like a list of things I need to figure out, but it's all very like abstract to an extent. I had planned to do like a world building guide fitting magic into society type thing. I can't decide if I'm still gonna do that or not, to be completely honest. I think I'll probably start this month with going through some like resources and reading some stuff and thinking about it and just deciding if I want to make something that followable or if I just want to dive into this, but I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna see. I'm hoping I can get a lot done this month. It's gonna be busy, but I also have some time. I think next weekend we're gonna go out of town and I'm actually flying separately from my family because like it's too long of a drive for my back to handle and it was too expensive for me to take some of the kids with me. So I'll have some time in the airport and on the plane and just like some extra time to get things done. So I should have a good burst of time in the next like week and a half to get through some stuff. So I just need to get myself organized, figure out what I'm gonna use. I've gotten a lot of like various books and stuff for inspiration that I need to kind of pick through and decide what I'm actually gonna keep, you know, in terms of looking through it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. And I think that's going to pull us into the next vlog, which means, you know, we're not actually going to finish the book in this one, which is kind of sad. I'll have to talk about my final plans next month, which will also be when I start, or I guess that's this month now that it's April, but next month's vlog, where I start going through everything with, you know, all my revisions that I need to do, which is gonna be crazy. I'm actually honestly really excited because I think I'm gonna be able to do a much lower level revision than I normally can. And I just love the idea of that, of being able to make it such better quality. And I'm excited that my husband hasn't read this draft yet, right? So I'm excited to be able to go through and make it really good before anyone reads it. And then I'm gonna give it to my husband, give it to my critique partners, and be like, look, I'm actually like pretty proud of this now, because like it will be in a state where I'm pretty proud of it for an early draft once I do another round of revisions on it, or a round at all of revisions. So I'm very excited about that. Exciting things are happening, but yeah, I need to start getting organized and figure out what I'm gonna do in what order. But yes, I will see you in the next one. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever, please comment down below. Thank you for watching, and yeah.